Hello everybody, my name is the English Born Idiot, and welcome back to another video. And as you can see from the title, we're going to be talking about about the situation with GTA 6 and Sony. Now, I was planning on making two separate videos on what will be the death of gaming and how GTA 6 will change gaming. Like just two separate videos on how different things might, on how the different things really might, how like these different things might occur and how GTA 6 as the game was developed and how it's priced and how that will change gaming specifically. But due to recent events, I kind of have to combine the videos, and all I really say is hopefully it is just me being pessimistic, but a lot of these current events could go very badly and change gaming. Will start to change gaming for the worst. So again, please leave a like, subscribe, turn on notifications to be notified whenever I upload. If you want to listen to more videos like this. Also, please listen to this video with a grain of salt, as there is facts in this. There is a lot of this has been reported by journalists. A lot of this was reported through different mediums that this is happening, but also a lot of this comes from my opinion, and especially what will be happening. So when those appear, please keep that with a grain of salt, as again, the events might not occur as I've said it, and they could be better, and they could also be worse. Probably they might be worse. I don't know. They could be better. Hopefully it won't turn out as I'm going to say it. But let's get into this. So, what did Rockstar do? If you've been living under a rock for the last 20 years, Rockstar is a company that has been developing the Grand Theft Auto, or GTA games, since its inception. Now, GTA has been a bit of a cornerstone for gaming for years now, probably a lot of those 20 years. And they've received a lot of acclaim for how good their titles were. Most recently, it's been 13 years with GTA 5. So, again, they're seen as a trusted company that can produce good games, which makes the situation a lot more interesting. Moving on to the actual issues. Firstly, I wanted to originally discuss how long this game had been in development for. Because again, this game had set to be in development since around 2015. People have gone since GTA 5 has been in development, but real notes has been maybe 2015, maybe since after Red Dead Redemption 2 came out. So that would have been around 2018, 2019. So 10 to 5 or 6 years around that the game's been in development for, which is still a very long time. And it could tell us how it could tell game companies how they actually want to take time in their games and actually take time into developing those games, make sure that game is the best possible thing it can be upon release. And also, I wanted to maybe discuss how the game is priced at $80 for the Standard Edition and $100 for the Ultimate Edition, and how that will lead to a hike in game prices for other AAA titles, or just other AAA titles like probably Call of Duties or FIFA will probably start charging that amount, even though they probably aren't worth that amount. Unlike GTA, possibly you could definitely argue that GTA is deserving to be at that amount because of how much you would expect to be in that game. Though there's also other issues now with the $80 and $100 title with the Ultimate Edition. Kind of a lot of stuff in the game is being priced behind the Ultimate Edition, which is very bad in its own right. But again, I probably won't be touching on them. I said I was, but again, after I made the script, I just kind of realized that I feel like I do need to discuss more about the physical and digital aspect of it. Now, the thing I've been over dramatically selling, like I'm Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan in SummerSlam 2005, is how GTA 6 won't have a physical disc being released. And with the game, instead, you can only buy it digitally via the PlayStation Store, the Xbox Store, and Steam. And you can purchase it, etc., etc. Now, you can purchase it in a physical store, like a GameStop, or if you live in Ireland, a Smiths or a Kex. Actually, I don't know. Well, I don't even think you can purchase it in Kex because of the second-hand game market, which we'll get into later. But so your GameStops, your Smiths, like anywhere you can just buy like a first-hand copy of the game. But instead of you giving being a physical disc, like a CD that you'd be able to plug into your console and play that game, like every single other console up to this point, from the PlayStation 1, the original Xbox, all the way up to now, you'll be given a code in a box. You will not be given the ability to actually like have a physical copy of the disc. It'll just be a code, which has a lot of issues. Now, I would like to say that Rockstar aren't necessarily the first people to try and introduce this. Famously, when the Switch 2 was being marketed, there was a similar problem with Nintendo where they wanted to release their games with either digitally only, or when you buy the physical game, you get a game code key that takes you to the Nintendo eStore where you can download the game from there. So it still is a lot of the same problems that occur with this game, but they're not. The Rockstar aren't the first people to do this, and neither are so. They aren't the first people to really suggest this. Now again, that you might be thinking then, Jamie, what is the problem? I play on PC. I always buy my games digitally, and the Switch 2 is already kind of doing it. What? Well, if you didn't interrupt me, I'll tell you how bad this is in the next section. Why this is already bad enough. This issue is already as bad enough as console gaming is a huge aspect of gaming and supposed to, we'll get into that into a later date, more affordable into a later, we'll get into more into that into a later date, more affordable than PC gaming, which takes a lot of money to get into. Like, you can spend, like, I think the PS5 costs, for me, €600. I got that like secondhand in Kex. Like, no, it cost me 500. It cost me €500, and I got that secondhand. But again, when it came out, it was like 500, 600. Now prices have risen to a lot, but it's still a lot. It's still like about more cheaper to get into PC gaming, especially with RAM prices increase. So again, it is supposed to be seen as a more affordable option for gaming and to play games. And for B is also with the Switch 2, when they did that, it was only the Switch 2 that would be affected. It wouldn't affect most of the gaming. Which, by the way, this is not me like trying to downplay the Switch 2. It still is a very terrible thing, by the way. But what is happening now could cause a lot more is causing a lot more ripples, and will cause a lot more ripples with it. And again, this is more bad as well because this causes huge issues with the fact that a lot of players actually owning games, owning the games they play, as Rockstar can say that they only are digitally purchasing it, and a bit fucky-wucky with the owner's rights, and that they are really renting the game, like Ubisoft, like with the class action lawsuit with Ubisoft like 2 years ago, and that players do not own the games they play. It can cause issues with Rockstar being able to pull the game for players and just be like, after like a certain amount of time, like if GTA just isn't like getting the payments, isn't getting the enough money that they've been getting from that they expected, they can be like, okay, well, the game isn't working so well, so we're just gonna like we're gonna shut down the servers for it. Let's just say GTA 5 upon release, GTA 6 upon release is such a catastrophic failure in terms of what people expected the game to be, that after like 2 years, let's just say after 3 years or so, Rockstar like, no, well, we're just going to cut the game and you can no longer play it, which would also just mean that you couldn't play the single player anymore because, oh well, game's gone, we don't care anymore. Which again is a lot of the reason, see the Stop Killing Games thing and what they're trying to accomplish, especially in Europe as well, what they're currently doing in the EU and trying to get laws passed so that video game companies have to allow like some games to continue upon their death. As Rockstar could just have, after they gotten their money, a certain amount of just pull GTA 6, making sure that you won't be able to play it after it's dead. Both of these issues are bad enough as it is. However, there's some more issues that come up that makes it worse. But who else but, of course, fucking Sony. which is also very funny considering the background gameplay I have is Infamous Second Son. I am a PlayStation. I do have PlayStation. I have the PlayStation 4 and 5. But Sony, oh my god, in the past like few years or so, during this decade, have basically been jackass assholes in terms of gaming for like a lot of things. So we'll get into that in the next section. What is Sony doing now, and how it makes things worse? Sony are now, well, from January 2028, doing the exact thing that Rockstar are doing. They are making it so that you can only purchase games either from the PlayStation Store, or if you go to a shop like, again, GameStop or Smith's, and you buy it, the physical game, like the physical, like, the thing with the case, you only get the code. Now, with Sony doing this, this brings up some interesting things that I'll get into. One is a lot of GTA 6's opening marketing has seemed to have centered around the PlayStation version of it. And when you click on certain links of certain marketing, it brings you to the PlayStation version of GTA 6. Which, again, Dark Viper AU, if you're GTA 6 fans, you probably already know who he is. Or, sorry, GTA fans, you probably already know who Dark Viper AU is. His video on the topic is probably a lot better to explain that. So, it seems that Rockstar and Sony are having a bit of a under-the-table handshake about certain things. And one is possibly influencing the other. I've seen things being like GTA 6 is being influenced by Sony. Sony is being influenced by GTA 6. But I can't say for certain either is one. But it definitely seems like one is being influenced by the other. In that sense, especially with the marketing. And two, this could cause Microsoft for Xbox to do the same thing as Sony, which would make, as they see that they're doing this to help with to make their market more easier and to make sure that they gain more money. So Microsoft can be like, okay, we're going to do this now. So it would make all of gaming currently essentially digital only, because PC is digital only. Obviously, Nintendo now is essentially digital only with the game keys. Sony is going to be that. Sony is doing that, and then if Xbox do that, then it's literally just the same thing. Then it's just all of gaming will just be digital only, which again will apply every bad thing I've mentioned previously onto the whole of the current gaming market and everything else I will mention afterwards. This causes so many issues, as if Rockstar or Sony aren't influencing each other, then it would mean that Sony might have access to the IP, and how Xbox and PC get access to GTA 6, which would affect their gamers and their ability to play the games. This is for the first point. And then for the second point, if all games can only be bought digitally, then the prices that were set by the store, prices might not go down as they could with digital prices, especially with the PlayStation Store. As when physical games and their discs, when bought, so let's say CEX, in England and in the United Kingdom and Ireland, it might be €70 when the game is first released. However, after like maybe 2 or 3 years, the game could go down to 15 or €10. With digital releases or code-only releases, firstly, it kills the second-hand game market, which in and of itself is very bad, because it reduces the affordability of games. And a lot of these games might not go down in price as they normally would. Because again, if you look through the PlayStation, if you go onto your I remember on the PS4, when I was looking at that, GTA 5, was still €60. It was still €60, like, and it stayed at that. Same with like Call of Duty Black Ops 3. But then when I got my PS5, it went down to €20, and same with GTA 5. It went down in price. But during the time that it was on the actual like PlayStation itself, in the PS Store, it just didn't go down. The prices stayed the same, and the sale things aren't as nice as they are with Steam. They aren't as good as Steam. I don't know about Xbox. I don't know how good Xbox sales are, so I can't really comment on that. But I do know PlayStation's just aren't. I don't like how PlayStation does their sales, especially compared to how Steam does them. So again, that just causes more issues if that happens to the entire gaming market. If something like that happens to the entire gaming market, it would be bad. Now, I have been talking a lot of just negative stuff from this, so we're going to go on to what could be the best possible case scenario about how this goes in. Now, what is the best case scenario from all of this? In my opinion, the best case scenario is that Xbox doesn't do what Sony and GTA are doing. They see that and they're like, no, this will fuck up gamers. This could if gamers don't like this, they could fuck up our sales, which we don't want. So, which then in turn will fuck up Sony sales, because again, gamers do not want this. Again, like I said, there's huge outcry from everyone being like, this is a shit thing that's happening, and this isn't good. And this again, if Xbox decide, no, we're not going to do this, we're going to still have physical copies and we're still going to have physical discs, then it would fuck with Sony's sales, because then everyone would see Xbox as the best person to go to and as a better people to buy games from. And then, which would probably have to force Sony to, at the very least, reassess their position on the digital-only releases. And the best thing that could happen is that essentially PlayStation loses a lot of their sales, and they have to come back to the regular games market with their tails between their legs and be like, oh yeah, we kind of screwed up. You know, we thought that this might be the best thing to happen, but obviously, in lieu of everything that's happened, then we have to change it. Which obviously would still, basically fuck up Sony for, years. Now, a lot of gamers do kind of, forget a lot of, they do kind of have a bit of a short-term memory about how shitty some of these people are, how these game companies are. See, basically, Hideo Kojima and Konami, and how people are now going back to not Devil May Cry, fucking the Metal Gear Solid, and just very forgiving towards Konami after the fact. But that's another video I will want to talk about as well, if Metal Gear Solid will ever come back. Now, another thing is, what can gamers do? With all this being said, what can we, or well, you specifically, gamers do that can possibly stop Sony from doing this? Stop buying PlayStation products. Seriously. It's because if they see that their sales are going down, they're going to be like, okay, something's obviously wrong, and as long as we make enough noise about this, it will obviously be transpired to the fact that it revolves around the aspect of that. And I know, again, probably it does sound a bit funny considering the fact that, again, the background gameplay is Infamous Second Son, which is a PlayStation 4 exclusive, but we move on from that because, again, this is still probably the best case scenario. Just play the games you already have. Again, you can't refund your games, which is already a stupid thing in and of itself, but you can't. Oh yeah, another issue: you can't refund digital games on the PS Store, but you can resell your games that you own if you end up not liking them. So that's another issue, in and of itself. But if they see that a large amount of sales are going down, then they will have to change their position on this. And if you are financially able to, by the way, this does not apply to everyone. Like I said earlier, console gaming is supposed to be the more financially affordable option for gaming. So again, if you are not in the financial position to do so, you can ignore this part of the video. But if you are financially able to, try and get a PC, even a cheaper one, and play Steam games only. They are also digital, but again, I trust Steam a lot more than Sony. They have better sales throughout the year. They aren't as very fucky-wucky as a lot of things. Steam and Valve are a lot more in my opinion, they are a lot more trustworthy as a games company, and as a games company and a distributor than Sony ever will be, and has been in the last few years. However, again, even still, get an Xbox. Again, like I said, Xbox has their own issues. They're not perfect by any means. But Sony are basically just like the difference is Sony right now are just so bad that again Xbox just doesn't seem as bad in comparison. Like Xbox have their own stuff, which again I would have gone into in an original video about how what will be the death of gaming. That's what, again, I was going to discuss things about like how the Game Pass isn't really great for people, how that also kind of ties into like digitally owned games and stuff like that. But this scenario really just kind of makes that does not seem as bad, and I kind of do have to like make this the focus on it because this is infinitely worse. So again, just stop buying PlayStation games if you the like stop getting PlayStation games. If you don't have to worry about, PlayStation Plus for a while, just play that. Just don't get any more games, even like the free ones. Don't get like just play what you currently have. Like play the games that you currently have available, and just like replay through old games. Like see if there's any ways that you can make the games that you currently have a lot more enjoyable. Because unless Sony changes it, then it's like you're basically just kind of being in a very bad position in this sense, where it's like you're just giving them more money, so they don't care. If you give Sony more money, they're just not going to care. But nothing's going to really happen if you still have games, because you might as well just play the games you currently have. Because again, that doesn't change anything. You can't just like again just delete your games. That's not going to show Sony anything. Obviously, if they just stop playing as well. First of all, that's why I suggest if you have the money for that, you can go into a PC or Xbox. That as well fucks with Sony's numbers as well, and they say, okay, there's a lot less players. They're moving on to Xbox. Why is that? They see that. So again, if you can afford to do that, or you already have an Xbox or PC, just like go away from Sony for a while. Play a lot of the games that you probably have on the PlayStation. You can probably play on the PC, which of course costs money. So again, just play the games that you currently have. If you cannot do so. Um, but going into the conclusion of this, the conclusion that has been made from this, from me, is that Sony and GTA 6 making their games essentially digital only will create a precedent for gamers only renting their games and not really owning them. And this will give a lot of credence to other game developers doing the same thing. It will kill off the secondary games market, the secondhand games market. And getting new games in store will be so much harder when they sell out because you can't fall back on the secondary games market, and when that kind of game finishes its life cycle, you won't be able to purchase it in a store anymore. The game will be gone. They won't have more codes to bring out. They're not going to infinitely continue printing out codes. And so that game will essentially be killed in a lot of ways unless you buy it on the store, which they can just decide now we're just going to pull it from the store as well, which just straight up does kill the game. And most importantly, it makes games, and this is the most important fact, because regardless of anything else, it makes gaming a lot more. It takes gaming away from a lot of the less financially well-off people, and it makes it so much less affordable for like people who don't. Because again, gaming is already €80. So let's say it's a Christmas present. You can play GTA 6. So you get it on sale for like €75 or like €60. You're waiting till Christmas to get a cheaper price, and then boom, you don't have to worry about the prices as much. But now with this whole thing, it really puts you in a way where it's like you're kind of forced to give them more money, which is obviously what they want, but you're forced to give them more money, which you don't have. Which, if you are not as financially well off, like if you're like in a lower wealth class bracket, you can't give as much money to gaming, which again kind of forces you. Which, by the way, gaming is a hobby, and you shouldn't be classed out of your hobby because of how expensive or something is. It really forces you to be like, okay, you have to do something else. Now, thankfully, there are other things you can do, like purchasing like an Xbox 360 from the secondhand games market, which should be cheaper, and then you could buy like those games. You can buy older games that you might not have played before. Like again, recently I played Halo. I played through the original Halo games recently, and again, I would never been able to do that like if I didn't have an Xbox. So those are things you can do to make it more affordable. But obviously, kids are going to see, like, again, if you're a parent, kids are going to see their like favorite YouTubers playing these new games, and they're going to want to play them. But you can't afford that because they're so expensive now, and gaming has just become more unaffordable for a lot of more common people. Now, in my final thoughts, I would also like to preface this with a lot of this is my opinion, especially when I'm speculating throughout the second half of this video. And at the end, but the worst case scenario, especially at the end of the worst case scenario, things might end up being better than what I had mentioned, and they might end up being worse. Sony might see the situation that's happening and see all the backlash and apologize for the decision. I know that sounds like very like hopeful, but again, that's something that could happen. A lot of what I said is really speculative, so again, please take this with a grain of salt, but also please keep an eye on what is happening, the situation, because this is a big deal for gamers. This really affects how gaming will be brought into the next decade. And it is really important that we make sure that this doesn't happen if we can, but also that we make sure that, again, that if this does happen, we have to like know what could happen. You know? I know I'm probably wording that very bad, but again, with all that being said, this has been the English Born Idiot. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.